for Christmas is what we're going to be talking about for December. Now listen, home for Christmas looks different for everybody. That phrase evokes different emotions for all of us. I know. So for some of you, it's your first Christmas together as a married couple. It'll be a cozy Christmas together. We're all jealous, right? For others, you've got a litter of small kids. And Christmas will be high energy and crazy. You'll need to pour some Red Bull in your coffee just to keep up. For still others, home for Christmas, your kids are gone or they're grown and they're driving to you or you're flying to them and it's you and the kids and the grandkids. Some of you, on the other hand, will connect with friends who function as your family. Your family isn't around, and so you celebrate with others that are near and dear to your heart. But there's nothing quite like everyone being together at home for Christmas. So the idea we're going to explore for this series is this. It's the idea of nearness. The nearness of Jesus to us. Everybody say the word nearness. Nearness. It's a wonderful word, nearness. Home for Christmas. That title conveys the intimacy of nearness, of being together, all in the living room, if you will, opening presents or singing a carol or reading the Christmas story together. Nearness. And the point I'm going to make in this series is simply this. This is it. Don't miss it. Don't miss the nearness of Jesus this season. Isaiah 55 says this. It says, "Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call upon him while he is near." We live in a time when Jesus is near. Listen to this. This is wisdom. This won't always be the case. If you're holding out on Jesus, one day Jesus, listen, you need to know this. There will be a time when he will no longer be available to you and near. So do not wait. Christmas means nearness. That's why Christmas is wonderful. But I have to tell you this, though. There was a season in my life when, truth be told, I just tried to get through the Christmas season. It was just too crazy, just too chaotic for me. Is there anybody there in this season already? Just too chaotic. You guys, it's early, right? It's early in the season. Like, hey, just get me to January 2nd. I'm done with all this mess. Listen, if that's you, I don't blame you. We've created a monster out of this, haven't we? I get it, I know. But I'm telling you, it's worth it to slow down and to make sure the one thing you do not miss is the nearness of Jesus this year. A few years back, there was a little word that was super popular. Do you remember this word? FOMO. I know it's old now. Nobody uses it anymore. But what did it stand for? Do you remember? Fear of missing out. So I was thinking, during the next few weeks, my hope is to instill in you a proper fear of missing out on the nearness of Jesus so that you will pursue that nearness. So what we're going to do is look at several folks in the Bible who were very near to the baby. We're going to look at their lives and see what difference it made when they found themselves near to the Messiah. We're going to look at 3 people the next 3 weeks. And just a heads up, you may not even have heard of some of these folks if you're new in particular, but they're right there in the scriptures. So we're going to look at a man named Simeon, a lady named Anna, and a king named Herod. All 3 of which found themselves near to the baby Messiah. Now today, we're going to talk just for a few moments, and then we're going to sing some more, but we're going to talk for a few moments about Anna. That's the plan. So, if you brought a Bible this morning with you or on your phone, you can open it up to the book of Luke. The book of Luke, chapter 2, so we're going to be for a few moments. Luke 2 is one of the greatest places you can read the Christmas story. It is marvelous, isn't it? Luke 2 is amazing. It's wonderful. So, here is Luke 2, verse 7, just to get us going into the story. So here's what Luke 2:7 says. We love this. It says, "And she gave birth to her firstborn son, And who is she? Hey, you're with me? You got this, yeah. And so Mary gave birth to her firstborn son and wrapped him in swaddling cloths and laid him in a manger because there was no place for them in the inn. Trinity, this is the story that changed the entire world forever, isn't it? God sent his only son, Jesus, into our world as a baby, and it's almost unimaginable. Mary and Joseph make their way to Bethlehem, and while they're there, the time comes. Jesus is born and placed in a manger, a contraption designed to contain food for animals. In other words, poverty and humble circumstances. A bit later, the shepherds will show up and they will worship him. Again, shepherds now, shepherds. Dirty, if you're a shepherd, I apologize for this. Dirty, smelly shepherds, the first audience of this baby king. But that humble night, it changed the world. After years, even centuries of waiting, the Messiah was here. Now look down in verse 22. And when the time came for their purification according to the law of Moses, they brought him to Jerusalem to present him to the Lord. As it's written in the law of the Lord, every male who first opens the womb shall be called holy to the Lord. Now, the law of Moses, the law of the Lord, here you see, these two titles are referring to the laws and the regulations you find in the books of Exodus, Leviticus. There were hundreds of those temporary laws that God gave the Jews after he rescued them from slavery in Egypt. And one of those regulations was to, get this, present your newborn baby to the Lord. Great idea, right? Now, you find all that in, by the way, Leviticus chapter 12. It's a tiny little chapter, just 8 verses, so you can read it on your own for yourself real quick. Leviticus chapter 12 is where you find this, but that's where this regulation is found. So this would have all happened 40 days after the birth. So think about this. Jesus is 40 days old at this point. It was 7 days after the birth, plus another 33 days of purification. So 40 days, 7 and 33, 40 days in total. So Jesus is 40 days old. And the next verse tells us something interesting. Look what it says. It says this. It says, and to offer a sacrifice according to what's said in the law of the Lord, a pair of turtle doves or 2 young pigeons. Now, Leviticus 12 tells us, if you were to read that, that plan A for the sacrifice is a lamb. But if the family is poor and cannot afford a lamb, then 2 turtle doves. I'm tempted to start singing that song right now, right? 2 turtle doves or 2 pigeons would do. That's plan B, if you can't afford plan A. And so which plan do they opt for, plan A or plan B? Oh, man, come on, people. Plan A was the lamb. Plan B, the 2 turtle doves. They opted for plan B, right? The lamb, not the lamb, but the birds. All right, so here's the point. You have a struggling little family, 40 days after the birth, traveling from Bethlehem to Jerusalem. Not a far journey, 6 miles or so, maybe a 2 or 3 hour walk. And they're poor. And when they enter the temple to perform this ritual, it's in this moment they meet our character today of focus, Anna. Look at verse 36. And there was a prophetess, Anna, the daughter of Phanuel of the tribe of Asher. Now, I have to say, I've always been intrigued by this mysterious woman. We only get 3 verses about her. And these 3 verses give us very little information, but we do know some things. What do we know? Well, first, she was a prophetess. Now, there were several ladies in the Old Testament who were prophetesses. There was Miriam, the mother of Moses, maybe you remember. There was Deborah. There was Isaiah's wife, but they were rare. Prophetesses were a bit rare. The big focus, I believe, was a prophecy in Joel chapter 2. Joel chapter 2, written hundreds of years earlier, predicted that in the days of the Messiah, sons and daughters would prophesy. Did you hear that? Daughters. Your daughters will prophesy, says Joel, in the days of the Messiah. And here Anna is. In other words, simply by virtue of who she was a living sign that the Messiah was near. You see that? She was a living fulfillment of Joel 2:28. But that's not all. That's not the only thing special about her. Also, the name of her father, Phanuel, and of the tribe of Asher. There's a lot of debate about why the name of her father is mentioned. Why even give us the name of her father? I think we're given his name. This is just my opinion. I think we're given his name because of what his name actually means. Get this. Phanuel means the face of God. Beautiful, isn't it? Phanuel, the face of God. It's beautiful. You see that word several times in the Old Testament, and here it is again in the days of the Messiah. And it turns out, in just a few moments, Anna is going to behold the very face of God in the baby. It's all so wonderful, the nearness. Look at the next verse. Here's a little more information about Anna. It says this. It says, she was advanced in years. Anybody feel advanced in years? I'm starting to feel more advanced in years these days. She was advanced in years, having lived with her husband 7 years from when she was a virgin, and then as a widow until she was 84. So here we see again, Anna's quite advanced in age. She was old at this point in her life. She had gotten married, and she had lived with her husband 7 years, and then he died, which means she knew sorrow, right? Anna knew what it was to suffer and to struggle. In those days, it was very difficult not to have a husband. In our day, it's like, woohoo, right? Freedom. In her day, it was very difficult not to have a husband. She had great difficulty, great sorrow, no doubt. And she had a hard life. But she remained unmarried, totally committed to the Lord 100% the rest of her life after he died, all the way up until the present, when she was 84 years old. Now, it's actually hard to tell exactly how old she was because there are two different ways you can read this sentence in the original Greek language. Now, our translation, we're using the ESV, our translation thinks this means that she's now 84. You see that right here. Now, other translations, several other translations, the King James, you can check that out as an example, think this phrase means she was a widow for 84 years. You see the difference? So again, this is ambiguous in Greek. We don't know for sure. So if she was a widow for 84 years, that would mean, get this, 84 years of widowhood plus the 7 years of marriage. And then the absolute youngest she would have been married would have been 12 years of age, which was the youngest a girl could have been married in those days. So if you add all that up, 84 plus 7 plus 12, that would have been at least 103 years old. So she was either 84 or around 103 years of age. Either way, I'm impressed, aren't you? I mean, she was devoted. And look at the life she lived all these years. It says, she did not depart from the temple, worshiping with fasting and prayer night and day. This wonderful older lady, she had devoted her life, her entire life to worship. Worshiping, praising God through prayer and fasting night and day. Beautiful life. It's a beautiful life. Now, this doesn't mean, by the way, that she never ate food at any hour of the day for 84 years, right? Like an 84-year fast. That's not what the point is. The point is, it does mean that she was constantly devoted to God. Night and day and night. God is my life. God's my everything. In prayer, in moments of fasting, in the temple. And I believe she knew the Messiah was near. I believe she could feel it inside of her. I believe there was joy in her heart as the years and the months and the days grew closer. But then one day, there was the baby in the temple being dedicated to God. That same temple where she lived so much of her life. And she knew it. There he was. Finally, nearness, hope, realized. The coming Savior of the world, here in human form. And what did she do? Like, what would you do in that moment? What did she do? Well, here's what we're told. We're told this. And coming up at that very hour, she began to what? To give thanks to God and to speak of him to all who were waiting for the redemption of Jerusalem. So this lady, this saint of the Lord, faithful for decades, she sees the long-awaited Messiah. All the nearness here, all those years of prayer and heartfelt longing and fasting. Now he was here. And Anna began lifting thanks to God in worship. I imagine like loud cries of thanksgiving, sweet and powerful words of praise lifted to the Lord of heaven and earth in the temple. And she spoke, didn't she? She spoke. She told everybody she could, like, hey, the Messiah is here. The Messiah is near. She saw the Messiah with her very own eyes. And that first Christmas changed her life forever. This is the story of a person we see who was near to Jesus and who was changed. Now, how was she changed? It wasn't from death to life. She already had life. She was already saved, if you will. Her faith in the Messiah who was coming, that faith had already saved her. So her change, we're not talking just about that. We're talking about the changing of someone who is already in the Lord. Her change was, get this, from expectation to fulfillment, from longing to seeing. Her change was from heart cry to joy, which means this, it means her example applies to all of us. I am so thankful for Anna, aren't you? I'm so thankful for Anna as we see her little story inside the Christmas narrative. So, what can we learn from this wonderful saint of God during this Christmas season? In the middle of all the crazy, middle of all the madness, here we are. Is there something, is there a lesson for us this Christmas? I don't know about you, but I'm amazed at how intense and over the top December is in our day. I remember when our 5 kids were little, it was insane trying to figure out what gifts to get them, how to stay within budget, even trying to find time just to get everything. When they're teens and adults, you can just give them like a little cash, right? And it's awesome. You give one of your adult kids some green, and here's what they're going to tell you. Oh, it's the perfect size and the perfect color, right? Thanks, Mom and Dad. But try that when they're 6, and they're going to look at you and be like, stop. Like, you know better than that. I need a toy, right? It's difficult. But in the middle of the crazy world, with life coming at us 100 miles an hour, what can we learn this morning from Anna? Well, the answer to that question is a lot. We can learn some powerful lessons from this amazing woman of God. I got 2 things for you real quick. 2 things if you're taking notes this morning. So first, the pursuit. Second, the result. 2 takeaways. First, the pursuit. Second, the result. So, the pursuit. You're going to pursue something the next few weeks. You are. You will pursue something. It might be the perfect gifts for your family, friends. It might be your favorite Christmas movies. Maybe it'll be the cookies, like we've already established. Or how about this one? Maybe your pursuit will be naps and sleep. Any amens to that, Mom and Dad? But here's the point. You will focus on something. You will be pursuing something. And Anna challenges us by her example to pursue the living God. Through it all, Anna's life is a challenge to us to pursue the Messiah and nearness with him this season. And so are you. Are you praying more than usual so far this season? Are you opening the scriptures and reading the Bible and pursuing nearness to Jesus more than usual this season? Maybe maxing out the sweetness of our time in church, gathered together Sundays and Wednesdays. Are you being like Anna? You know, some of you are in a season of tragedy and loss and heartache. And I want you to know we're so glad you're here. I know this time of year can be so painful. Maybe this will be your first Christmas without someone you love. And again, central to Anna's story is the gut-wrenching tragedy of her loss. It's hard to overstate the hardship in losing her husband so early in life. Perhaps only 19, 20 years old, and then 7 years and so forth. Her husband's gone. And then also, I was thinking about the timeline of her life. She would have been born, if you think about it, sometime around 100 BC, right? 100 BC, give or take. Maybe you don't know about Jewish history around that time period, but this is in between the Old and New Testaments. But the Jewish state of life in those 100 years, particularly around Jerusalem where she was, it was difficult, to say the least. Intense government unrest, evil rulers, suffering of great intensity. And yet through the tragedy, Anna stayed focused on God. No doubt, she knew Isaiah 55:6, we read it earlier. Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call on him while he may be near. No doubt, I think she also was thinking Jeremiah 29:13. She would have known. It says, God says, you will seek me and you will find me when you seek me with all your heart. That was her life. Seeking God with all her heart. So the question is this. Would you join her in her pursuit? That's the question. Would you join her in the pursuit of this Messiah who is so near? But there's a second piece to all this. Not only the pursuit, but also the result of the pursuit. The result. And I want to encourage you this morning. There is an awesome reward in pursuing the right things in life. It's not for nothing. You don't pursue Jesus and end up with no reward. That's for sure. Did you notice what Anna did when she saw the Messiah? In short, here's my summary. She went crazy. Not in a weird way. I'm not talking about like a weird kind of crazy. I'm talking like an overjoyed kind of crazy. You know what I'm talking about. When you get filled with happiness and excitement to the point of overflow, the result is you just get a little bit crazy, right? I mean, I was at a college football game a few weeks ago, and every time a great play happened, the crowd got crazy, like filled with euphoria. To be honest, it was actually sort of sick and gross because my team was getting beat up. And every disgusting great play the other team made, the crowd went wild. It was awful. I was thinking if some creature from another planet like were to drop in and watch, just sort of hovering over the little stadium, they'd be like, why are y'all so crazy, right? But that's what excitement and extreme joy do to us. Friends, this is the power of the nearness of Jesus, like times 1,000, when Jesus takes the throne in your life. So the result for Anna, she began giving thanks to God and speaking to everybody around. I just love it. I just love the joy we see in this weathered saint. You got to picture it, right? Whether she's 84 or 103. Like, wow. She's beside herself, giving thanks and praise to God. No shame, no fear, no timidness, just praise and thanks. Telling everybody about Jesus, the Messiah. And that's what's available to us this Christmas season. If we choose to pursue the right things, namely Jesus, the result will be sweet in our lives. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we have to throw away all of our traditions. I'm not saying we need to skip the presents, skip the cookie decorating contest, and pass the hot chocolate away and all that stuff. Listen, here's what I am saying. Underneath all of that, if we will make Jesus central and primary and our thing, so to speak, the result will be amazing. In fact, there's a way to carry on all those traditions we love and enjoy with Jesus at the center. I love Colossians 3:17. It says, whatever you do, in word or deed, do everything in the name of the Lord Jesus. Isn't that beautiful? In other words, for Jesus, in Jesus, through Jesus, with Jesus as your focus. Let me tell you, I have learned from experience that when you center your Christmas on Jesus, the Messiah, it's simply the best. Anybody with me on that? It's the best, right? It's incredible. He truly is. He truly is the Prince of Peace and the King of Kings. So I want to end this way. I was thinking about this. You know my favorite room in our house? Especially when our older kids and son-in-law come home around Christmas time and we're all 8. By the way, we're all 8 in the house today. How about that? All 8 of us right there. Y'all just look so good over there. But here's the deal. When they all come home, we're all 8 together. My favorite room is the kitchen. And here's why. There's a nearness we share in the kitchen. It's so wonderful and so much fun. I mean, in fact, I couldn't resist showing you a little picture just to make the point. And so here we are in the kitchen. And here's the point. There is a nearness we experience. I'm talking us, the Wilsons. As we stand together and we eat and we snack, we tell jokes, we laugh, we catch up, we enjoy the sweetness of nearness, eating together in the kitchen. Now listen, I know some of you be like, no, it's not the kitchen, it's the table, the supper table where you feel that nearness. And maybe you're like, wait a minute, you all stand up and eat in the kitchen? What? Hey, listen, don't judge us, all right? That's just our thing. That's what we do. The kitchen and, of course, the living room. But the point is this. In Christmas, God is doing everything necessary to invite you into the kitchen or to the table, to the place of nearness. We'll say it again. Listen to this. In Christmas, God is doing everything necessary to invite you to the table, to experience nearness with him. And the question is, would you take him up on his invitation? Would you give your attention, your primary pursuit this season to the Messiah? Friends, here we are, right in the middle of the greatest month of the year. So Trinity, guests, let's make this one of the best yet by pursuing our Messiah more than ever. Would you pray with me for a few moments? Then we're going to continue to sing a little bit more.